Okay, this week in ELA class we have been reading A Royal Mystery, and we've also looked at a couple other stories, and we've been focusing on the POW TIDE way of writing. And this week, or today, we are looking on page 65 in our reading book. On page 65 you see this prompt. It says, a royal mystery is divided into 9 scenes. By the end of the last scene, the mystery introduced has been solved. It should be the. How does each scene move the plot forward? Write 2 paragraphs in which you explain how all the scenes together create a complete story. Be sure to provide specific evidence from the text. All right? So what I want to do, let me go back here. Using these tools, let's pull apart the prompt. This is the P section that we were talking about on POW TIDE. So let's look, you guys share with me, what is this prompt asking us to do? I want you to talk with your group and discuss on here, what are they asking you to do? Go ahead. Okay, as we are looking at this prompt, a royal mystery is divided into 9 scenes. By the end of the scene, the mystery introduced has been solved. How does each scene move the plot forward? Write 2 paragraphs in which you explain how all the scenes together create a complete story. Be sure to provide specific evidence from the text. The first thing that we need to do when we are using the POW TIDE method is this one right here. Now, P stands for pull apart the prompt, okay? So I'm going to write here to remind myself what this means. I'm going to type out if it'll let me. Let's see. Okay. Now pull apart the prompt means that I need to look at this prompt and ask myself, what is it asking me to do? All right, it says on here that the last scene of the mystery, or by the last scene, this mystery has been solved. So it's asking me this question right here. It says, how does each scene move the plot forward? Well, I need to remember what the word plot means. Okay, so as we are examining this prompt, it's telling us that this part right here, we need to pull apart the prompt. So let's do this. It says, how does each scene move the plot forward? Okay. Now, some of us have asked, well, what does plot mean? We kind of got a little confused on that the other day. And the definition that you guys came up with that worked really well was, a plot is all the events and action in a story. Okay. It's all the events and action in a story. We also talked this week about theme. All right. We talked about theme. And some students in 5th grade have gotten confused with plot versus theme. They're not real sure what those 2 differences are. Well, theme is the life lesson that you learn from the story. I shared with you all that example of Jesus and the prodigal son. Remember that? The father that had the 2 sons. And one of them said, hey, give me my money. And he went out and spent it all. The other example I told you of a story that has a theme to it was the story of the tortoise and the hare. Remember discussing that? Okay, and we learned about how the hare got so far ahead in the race, got a little bit arrogant, and he decided to lie down and take a rest, and he got beat during that. Okay, so that's the difference between a theme and a plot. A plot is all the action. A theme is the life lesson or the story that I learned from the author. Okay? Now, but what we're doing in writing is we're going through this POW TIDE program. And we're looking at this prompt and we're trying to figure out, well, all right, what they want me to do is they're asking, how does each scene in this play that we have read help move the plot forward? So I'm going to, if you have a highlighter, you would highlight this. This is going to indicate to you one of the things that they're asking us to do. It also says write how many paragraphs? How many does it say? 2. That's right. It says write 2 paragraphs. So you're going to be writing 2 paragraphs. Actually 3, maybe 4. Okay? You'll have an introductory paragraph, and then you're going to write 2 paragraphs which answer this question right here. It says write 2 paragraphs in which you explain how all these scenes together create a complete story. Now this is important right here. It says be sure to provide specific evidence from the text. Now in our earlier writing that we did, many of you all did a very nice job of rewriting the whole entire story. If you remember at the beginning of the year we did the penguin paper. Do you remember reading this? You had to read the article, and then the prompt asked you to write about all 3. Well, some of you on yours, when I graded yours the other night, you had written 1 page about the amazing penguin rescue. Then you wrote another page about the amazing penguin rescue told by a different author. And then the last page you wrote about the video transcript. Well, that's not what the prompt was asking you to do. So this year, using the POW TIDE, we are going to learn how to write an introductory paragraph. And then we're going to use the POW TIDE prompt, and we're going to go through and break down, well, what do they really want me to do? Okay? So tell me, based on what we have here, what do you see that we need to do? What are some things that you notice? Yes, ma'am. Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am. Do I? We've got to be specific, okay? Yes, ma'am. All right, that's another big thing, okay? Now, using text evidence doesn't mean that we recopy the text. I graded one student's paper, and all they had simply done was rewrote the whole entire article. Okay, if I want it rewritten like that, I would go copy it on a copy machine, save a lot of time. All right, that's not what they're talking about. All right, so the O section of POW TIDE, what does that mean? Organize. Okay, it means organize my notes. Okay, so here's what I would do. All right, let's see, O-R-G. All right, once I have broken apart the prompt to see what it is that what they're wanting me to write about, I've got to organize my notes. Now, what has been suggested for us to teach you is that on your writing paper, you need to write the words POW, P-O-W, across the top, and T-I-D-E across the bottom, or across or down the side there. And when you see that, the more practice we do with this, the more you see that, the more you'll be able to write about. Okay? So let's talk about this one. What does W stand for? Okay? It says to write and say more. Okay? So you're going to write about it, and you're going to say more about whatever the prompt is asking us to do. Now, this is where we get into organization. T is the topic statement. This is like your introductory. All right, this is where we set up our paper. Now, yesterday, or the other day when I was grading some of your papers, some of you wrote in there, today I'm going to tell you about the Great Penguin Rescue. No, that's not really an introduction. Okay? Most fifth graders this year, what you guys did was you just went right into writing. You gave me no introduction. Okay? So that's what T is. It's your topic. All right? It's your topic introduction. All right? So let me write this out here. Okay, topic introduction. I'm often asked this. Many students will ask me, how many sentences are we supposed to write in a paragraph?
3 or 4.
Okay, for some reason somebody has taught you guys, and I always kind of laugh at this, someone has taught you guys that 5 is the magic number for a paragraph. Paragraphs are not always 5 sentences. I've read paragraphs that are pages. Okay? But that's kind of a good rule of thumb for you when you're trying to figure out, have I written enough? What I always tell students when they ask me, is this enough? I will ask them, well, what do you think? Is it enough? Have you explained to the reader what it is you're writing about? Okay? So I is going to be your first evidence. Okay? Now let's go back to this prompt on here. It's asking us to explain how all the scenes together help to help tell a complete story. Right? So the first paragraph I may write will be about, all right, scenes 1 through, let's say there are 9, 1 through 4. You might explain briefly what's happening in there. All right, you may say something like scenes, let's see, 1 through 4, we are introduced to the main characters. Okay? And we may also find about what the problems are. Okay? We also okay? Now, what does D stand for? Tell me, guys. Details. Okay. To make your writing more interesting, you've got to add lots of details. You have to. Okay? So this is not one paragraph until you add lots of what? Details. So everything that you write in this paragraph right here is going to be a detail that helps support this concept that scenes 1 through 4 we learn about the character. Now, ladies, remember, what is it it's asking us to do? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so we're explaining how all these scenes together help create a complete story. Okay? So this first paragraph, I, stands for the first thing I'm going to write about, and then I want to add some details. What do you think this second I stands for? Yes, sir. Okay, it's going to be another example. Remember, it's asking us here to provide specific evidence from our text. Well, here's the second paragraph that I'm going to write about. And again, what does D stand for?
Detail.
All right, D stands for detail. Okay? So I'm going to, again, write another paragraph, and I'm going to add some details to it. What do you think E stands for? End. Okay? E, in this example, is going to stand for the ending. Okay? So I want to point out something that I showed my class earlier. I've had students in the past that when they're writing, they write this. Or I've had them write okay? Now I have a question for you. Do you think that would be an insult to you if somebody, you've read this story and they've written on there, this is the end of my story? It's an insult to the reader. It makes them feel as though, well, you idiot, you don't have sense enough to know that you've come to the end of the story. You're probably not smart enough. You're probably sitting there looking at the paper thinking, well, I know I've read this. I'm not at the end yet. Okay? So there's no need for you to write, this is the end, or to label it the end of the story. One student in my class said, well, what if I put to be continued? And my simple question was, are you going to write another paper? Well, no. Okay? So don't put that. All right? So I wanted to spend today and just kind of go through POW TIDE with you, a brief overview, and in class we'll do more.